Good afternoon, colleagues, and welcome to today's webinar. It's 2 o'clock exactly, and the webinar topic is on performance-based contracts, advancing efficiency in the water sector. Today we have two speakers, Vivek and Tembela, but Mr. Lundokuhle Hlajoya will introduce the two speakers. Over to you, Lindo. You can introduce Vivek and Tembela, and then we can start the session.
Lindo, you're on mute.
Am I? Oh, sorry. So I've been on mute all along, or sorry for that. Yes. So welcome back. Sure. I don't even know where I went on mute and
From the beginning.
Let me start from the beginning. Yes. Thank you. Welcome to one of our installments of webinars. So today we're going to be looking at the performance-based contract that is looking at the water sector. And Vivek and Tembela are going to take us through the work that they've done with regards to the insights in terms of what is it that they've discovered with regards to performance-based contracts that can be used to efficiently and modernize our work environment, and what are the best practices, and also to make sure that we whenever we are looking at contracting for this particular services, we make sure that we are exactly getting what we want. So basically, mostly performance-based contract are looking at your output rather than looking at the input, meaning you get what is it that you want to achieve at the end of the day, rather than what is it that you need to put in place before you can then achieve what you want to achieve. So in this case, we are going to look at all those contracts that are saying you do 1, 2, 3 because you want to achieve this. So we want to see how we achieve that. If you have not achieved what we want water to be out on our taps. If there's no water, we can't pay. And then once there's water coming out, then we start paying. We don't care whether you've put the pipe and then you've installed whatever taps that you've installed. As long as we don't have water, then we can't pay for you, because we are paying for water, not for you to put in the pipes. Well, that will be part of what we will pay for, but mainly we want water to come out of the tap. So to take us through the webinar for today, let's welcome Vivek as well as Tembela Mazula. Both are from GTAC, Capital Project Appraisal Unit, which looks at assessing large infrastructure proposals that seeks government funding. So in this case, let's welcome Vivek. Vivek, I don't know who's going to start between you and Tembela. So you can then assist me.
Thank you, Linda.
Sorry, Vivek. Oh, you starting? Wonderful. You can go ahead, sir.
Thank you, Linda. Good afternoon, colleagues. Linda, thank you for that introduction. You've summarized this very, very concisely.
Sorry,
Tembela?
Vivek, can we see you before you continue?
Okay,
Yes,
here I
for
am.
everyone to know who they are talking to. Otherwise, there's artificial intelligence that can also happen. All right, you welcome back.
Tembela, next slide, please. Colleagues, by way of content, we'll be talking about how we got to this topic as background. We'll be giving some introduction to what performance-based contracts are, and then the use of performance-based contracts in non-revenue water projects. Then the next two bullets are tied. We'll look at using the use of performance-based contracts in South Africa. We'll look at some case studies over there. And then we look at the suitability of using these contracts in the country. And in doing this, this research, we found that this type of contract can be used in other sectors as well. It wasn't just the exclusive preserve of the water sector and non-revenue water projects in particular. It can be applied to other areas as well. And we will take a look at what those other areas are in the broader applications. And then we'll tie up with some conclusions and some considerations for scaling performance-based contracts in the country. Now, I should tell you upfront that my colleague Tembela and I are not contracting people. We are infrastructure people, but not on the contracting side. So if we do get stuck, we will be calling on our colleagues Lindo and Will Batista from the PPP unit to assist us. Now, as an introduction, first we're looking at the definition. The definition says that this is a contract where payment is based on achieving specific performance targets rather than traditional input-based delivery. Now, as a definition, that is saying a lot, and we need to unpack that. And we're going to unpack it looking at what a traditional contract is first. So here, we're sticking with the water example, and the example we're giving is that a contractor is paid for the work that they do or the resources that they used, no matter what results are achieved. Now, let that sink in for a bit. And this example will help. So we are paying a plumber for the number of hours that are worked and the materials that are used, even if the leak comes back at a later stage. So 2 weeks down the line, if the geyser starts to leak again, or the pipe bursts, too bad. We've already paid for it. It's a done deal. Now, the difference in a performance-based contract goes along like this. Here, the contractor is paid for the results that they deliver. And it's not just the effort or the input that goes into producing the work. And sticking with the water example, we are paying the plumber only if the pipes stay leak-free. And they need to stay leak-free for some period of time. And if they don't stay leak-free, the contractor is not going to get paid. Now, the focus of this is on outputs, and it's not just on activities. The areas of application, well, firstly, we said non-revenue water. There's other areas like energy efficiency, wastewater treatment, and then there's infrastructure maintenance and rehabilitation. Next slide, please. And I think we've all experienced some sort of water cuts at a municipality that we've been staying in. Now, this isn't consolation by any measure, that this business of non-revenue water is actually a global problem. And non-revenue water is water that is produced, clean water that is treated, but it is not billed. It's not charged for. And there's a number of reasons for this. This could be due to leaks, theft, or there's some inaccuracies with the meter. The meter isn't working properly. So the billing isn't happening as it should. In South Africa, the current estimate is that across the country, non-revenue water averages about 40%. Now, that is quite a high figure because almost half the water that goes into the distribution network is lost. And this is costing us dearly. And there's some billions to it. Initial work that the Department of Water and Sanitation did put this figure at 12 billion. And then later on, I think it was a report that they produced in 2024 on non-revenue water. In that report, they estimate that the leaks are actually costing the country around 26 billion. So it's quite a significant amount of water down the drain, literally. Then why? So we're asking, why are performance-based contracts suitable for non-revenue water projects? And there's three reasons over here. The first is that they align contractor incentives with performance, and this could be leak reduction or metering accuracy. The second reason is that it fosters innovation and efficiency from the private sector. Now, the contracting people would be able to relate to this quite well. If in the new engineering series of contracts, it allows for the contractor to do pieces of work that produce similar or better results for similar risk. So if a contractor is able to do that at a lower cost, some of these savings can be shared with the client. So this type of contract allows for that sort of thing. And the last point is that there's a shift in focus from short-term repairs to sustained loss reduction. That 12-month example we gave earlier is an example of that we're not just interested in the leak being fixed for the next couple of weeks. It needs to last us for quite a while. The last thing we're looking on the slide is the structure of these non-revenue contracts. What goes into these contracts? So firstly, what is important is establishing a baseline and verifying the current levels of non-revenue water. Now, these baselines are incredibly important because it gives the current status. It says this is where we are currently. And you can imagine that if we are not measuring the baseline properly, we would have trouble measuring the degree of improvement that was achieved by the contractor. So if there's discrepancy in that, I mean, it's going to open a can of worms, that there's going to be disagreements, and disagreements is in a contracting environment is not a good thing. The second point is that there are defined targets for non-revenue water reduction. Now, over here, the example we're giving is some percentage reduction over a 3-year period. Now, take your minds back to our KPIs. We have smart KPIs, and SMART, it's spelled specific, that these targets are specifically defined. These are measurable. We define the amount of improvement that we want. These are achievable. This work can be done. It's also relevant to the deliverable of the project. It is related. It's not related to something outside of the water project. And lastly, this is time bound. And that these objectives, they need to be achieved over a certain period of time. Then the third point is saying that the payments are linked to verified savings, and this links to the baseline, because by difference, we'd be able to get the savings that were achieved, and the savings that were achieved would relate to the amounts that the contractor would be paid. And then risk and reward is shared between the contractor and the utility. Next slide, please. Then, on the early experiences of using this type of contracts in the country, the first experience was with the eThekwini municipality, and this related to their non-revenue water reduction project, which happened between 2008 and 2012. The other early adopters were Johannesburg Water and Nelson Mandela Bay. Now, overall, we'll get into a bit of detail into this in the next couple of slides, but overall, the results from this early experience was quite mixed. And the reasons that can be attributed to this mixed results, these relate to weak baselines, that these measurements weren't properly done, or they weren't as extensive as they needed to be, or accurate as they needed to be. The second point relates to capacity constraints. This relates to both technical, managerial, engineering type capacity constraints at the municipalities. I mean, the idea of the intelligent client comes with this point. Then the third point talks to inadequate legal frameworks. Now, granted that this is one could argue that this is a new type of contracting mechanism that is being used, and we are still getting our heads around that. So our legal frameworks are not ready for full-scale use of this. Then on the current trends, there's increasing interest from the Department of Water and Sanitation and municipalities in using this contract types. The other trend is that this could be used for energy projects, for road and transportation type projects, and sanitation sector type projects. And there's also interest from DFIs in promoting performance-based contracts in water security programs. So it's this type of contracting is not only limited to the non-revenue water sector. It can be applied to a variety of other sectors. Now, going into a bit more detail into these projects that we spoke about, the first is the eThekwini project. The scope of this was leak detection and pressure management. And the outcome of the project by eThekwini was a 20% reduction in system losses, which is quite significant. And the success factors that were attributable to this outcome related to municipal support, that the municipality was supported by the people, by the entities developing this project, and we'll touch on that in a later point. And then there was capacity for monitoring at the municipality when this project was implemented. The second case study was at Nelson Mandela Bay. The challenge that arose over here was contractual disputes over performance metrics. Now, in having a contract, the last thing a project manager or program manager would want is to have some sort of dispute with the contractor. And the lesson from all of this is that the KPIs and dispute resolution mechanisms need to be agreed up front. So when there is a problem, or when a problem does arise, the fallback position is that we've already agreed on how to solve our differences. So those mechanisms are already in place. We're not going to argue about what dispute resolution mechanisms to use. So that helps. And then the third example was the city of Manila in the Philippines. Over here, there was a private sector working on the project, and the results that were achieved were quite incredible because non-revenue water had dropped from 63% to 16%, and this was achieved over a 10-year period. And the savings are significant. And the relevance for South Africa from all of this is that it highlights the power of long-term, well-structured performance-based contracts. So this isn't an overnight contract where once the work is done, the contractor packs up and goes. So we're looking at these contracts to be over the long term. And we should also have at the back of our mind that the degradation in infrastructure that is leading to high levels of non-revenue water didn't occur overnight. This type of situation happened over years of neglect. So we can't expect that on similar lines that this problem will disappear very, very quickly. I mean, they're going to stick with us for quite a while. Next slide, please. Thanks. And over here, we are looking at the suitability of performance-based contracts in South Africa, and we're looking at the opportunities, challenges, and some adjustments that are required for using this type of contracts for our local conditions. On the opportunity side, there's opportunity to leverage private sector skills. There's also opportunity to improve service delivery without upfront capital. Now, we know that a lot of our municipalities are financially strained, and having them to put up capital upfront is going to be a challenge. So if we can get away from putting a bit of upfront capital, that'll help. There's potential for climate adaptation and energy savings. Over here, the story goes along like this. We spoke about, or we touched earlier on reducing, on reducing pressure within the system. Now, if we maintain a high level of pressure within the system, there's going to be lots of leaking going on. By reducing the pressure in the distribution network, and particularly during off-peak periods, there's less electricity that will be used because the pumps are not pumping at full, because the pumps are not at full pressure. There will be electricity savings, and as a country, we get a whole lot of our electricity from fossil fuel, so we're saving on emissions. The last point talks to that it is suitable for municipalities with low technical capacity. That's the engineering managerial technical capacity. The challenges that come with this type of contracting is the lack of baseline data, weak contract management skills, that intelligent client idea, and there is, in some quarters, there is some resistance to private sector involvement. And lastly, on the challenges, there's to some degree inadequate regulatory frameworks. Then lastly, we're looking at the adjustments that are required for local conditions. There's capacity building for municipalities, and this needs to be provided particularly on contract oversight, because as a municipality, we don't want our entities to get abused. And for that can happen quite extensively in a contracting environment. I mean, particularly if the contractor is quite sharp. The second bullet is quite a loaded bullet. It says use of blended finance, DFI, municipality, and private. And I need to unpack that for a bit. The example over here is a non-revenue water type project. And the DFI, it would give a low interest loan and a partial guarantee. And by doing this, this reduces the chance that the private sector investors lose money if the project underperforms. From the municipality side, the municipality contributes capital, and this shows commitment to the project. It also agrees to ring-fence part of future revenues for payment. Now, if something happens in the electricity sector within the municipality, on the other side of the municipality, no funds from its water business is going to be used in its electricity sector. So the funds are ring-fenced and it stays within the water business. Then from a contractor perspective, the contractor or investor, they bring in some capital. They finance leak detection teams. They also finance smart metering and technology. And then in return, they are paid based on how much non-revenue water is reduced. And we also ask the question why this sort of arrangement is helpful. Well, firstly, the DFI reduces risk. The municipality provides local buy-in, and the private sector brings in efficiency and expertise. And together, this makes the project bankable. Whereas before, nobody alone might have the appetite to carry this project. So the third point, we've touched on the community engagement from the municipality side to build trust. And then lastly, we are saying that these KPIs can be adapted for local conditions. And these local conditions could relate to job creation and community upliftment. Timbela?
Good afternoon, everyone. Today I'll be speaking about the broad application of the performance-based contract beyond their common use in non-revenue water reduction. We'll also look into three key sectoral projects where the PBC are making an impact, which are energy, road maintenance, wastewater treatment. I will also highlight some of the lessons learned from South Africa and offer some considerations for scaling up these models. The first one here, it's energy performance contracts. And the overview is that the EPCs are a specific type of PBC where the energy service companies implement an energy saving measures, and the energy saving companies is paid from the actual savings achieved, not on a fixed amount. The EPC need to be structured in a way that the baseline energy used is measured. The energy saving companies designs and install the energy efficient equipment like the LED lighting, efficient pumps, or solar panels. The client pays the energy saving companies from the cost savings, either through the shared savings or guaranteed savings. And the savings are verified through the formal measurements and verification protocols. And the actual benefit of the EPC is that no upfront capital required. The operational cost savings are guaranteed. Technical and performance risk are transferred to the private sector. In terms of the South African context, is that SANEDA has implemented an EPC through its public buildings energy efficiency program. And also the city of Cape Town piloted the EPCs for building and street lighting. And the government has also mandated the EPC under the 2020 regulations for energy performance certificates for large building public buildings. We also further identified the challenges of the EPC. and that there is a limited understanding among the public officials. And the second one is that the measure and verification delays with payment bottlenecks due to bureaucracy. And the second sectoral project is a road maintenance contract. The overview is that in road maintenance, the PBC focus on several levels, not just the volume of work. And the metrics includes the road smoothness, response time, and the drainage functionality. The PBC needs to be structured in a way that the contractors maintain the road over 5 to 10 years. They are paid based on the KPIs such as ride quality, crack sealing, and public certification. And lastly, is that regular audits are being used and penalties for poor performance are implemented. The global example is that Argentina and Uruguay were early adopters of the PBC for roads maintenance, and Kenya and Tanzania have also used the PBC for routine maintenance with a World Bank support. In terms of South African context, SANRAL uses what they called output and performance-based road contracts for national roads, and payments are linked to several levels and not just resurfacing kilometers. The benefit of these contracts are that it improves the cost predictability, it incentivizes the preventative maintenance measures, and it also reduces the administrative burden. We further identify the key challenges of the PBC in road and maintenance. Number one, it requires a strong performance monitoring. Number two, we also identify that many local contractors lack the experience with service level contracts. Here on the third sectoral project is wastewater treatment. The overview is that the PBC in wastewater focuses on meeting the effluent quality standards, energy use, sometimes slang handling. The PBC needs to be in this way structured in a way that the payment is linked to a compliance with the effluent targets, such as the nitrogen or phosphorus level. It may also include the upgrades or ongoing operation and maintenance. And they also make sure that the bonuses and the penalties clauses are based on the environmental performances. In terms of the global example is that China and Vietnam used BOT contracts tied to pollution removal. Brazil also linked the payments to treated volumes and discharge quality. In South African context, however, it is still emerging as eThekwini municipality is exploring the sledge beneficiation partnerships, and Amatole Water, which is from Eastern Cape, consider the PBC for plant operations, and the Department of Water and Sanitation is supporting the performance-based approaches in smaller towns as well as municipalities. The benefit of this contract is that it ensures the compliance with the environmental standards. It encourages the innovation in the energy and chemical use. It promotes the resource recovery, such as the biogas. We further identify that the challenges of the PBC in wastewater treatment project. Number one, we identify that the municipalities may lack the capacity to monitor the effluent. Number two is that there is a problem of a poor managed contracts that can result into fines. Number three is that the asset handover or regulatory clarity are weak in some of the areas. Here, colleagues, we did a cross-sectoral observation on actually what enables the success. The enabler number 1 here, we said it's a baseline data. If we're looking into the energy project, we said it's an essential, the KAWH. Onto the road maintenance project, it's the road conditions. And on a wastewater project, it's an effluent quality. And the enabler number 2 is monitoring and verification. And on an energy project, we identify it as a measurement and verification protocol. And on road projects, we identify as a road surveys, and on wastewater project as a lab testing. Enabler 3, we identified as a contract duration, of which in this regard, in terms of the contract duration, it depends about the particular project and the energy. As you can see that it can be a minimum of 5 years up to 20 years, depending about the sectoral projects. So in that's what it happens in terms of that construction contractual duration. And the enabler 4 is a private sector. Here on energy, since we have also identified the energy service companies are the ones that are very enabler in terms of this particular project. In terms of a road maintenance project, we really see it as a civil contractors, and in wastewater project as operation and maintenance service providers. And the last enabler is a key risk. So the key risk for energy project, we identify it as energy prices and disputes. For road projects, it's a weather and funding, and then on the wastewater project as a compliance and slides. Here on our conclusion is that the PBC are not a one-size-fit-all solution, but they also provide a powerful tool for accountability, efficiency, value for money. As we identify that as South Africa has already piloted the PBC in energy, road, and wastewater. We also believe that with the better policy support, capacity building, and safeguards, the PBC can be scaled to address the infrastructure gap and improve the service delivery. Here, colleagues, is our considerations for scaling up the PBC in South Africa. Is that we need to develop a national framework for PBC, including standard templates. We also provide training to municipal officials in performance-based contracting. Also launch the pilot projects in high non-revenue municipalities with the donor support. Probably create an independent verification system for monitoring the results, and further encourage the innovation by giving contractors the flexibility into a solution. Maybe including that, according to the outcome of our research, we believe that the PBC can play a transformational role across multiple sectors, and with the right support, they can help South Africa build more resilient, efficient, and accountable infrastructure systems. Thank you very much. Back to you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mazula. And Vivek, thank you very much for the presentation. Yeah, I've got some minor small questions, or 1 or 2 questions for clarification, but then I think it's time to let me first open it up to everyone in the webinar to then ask any question for clarification or any input into the discussion that we are having. I see we've got Peter SC. You can come in, Peter.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. And I want to really appreciate the presenter for such insightful research done. It was quite, I learned a lot, especially when it comes to the non-revenue water. But it's not a question. I just wanted to share some input in relation to the new concept that I've learned about the performance-based contract, and to say I could pick up that there were recommendations made to say this could be extended to other areas, a part of the NRW. I will also say if the research could extend to areas of collection, like municipalities that we do assist. We have a situation nationwide whereby the collection rate is quite very low for our services, electricity, water, and related. And therefore, debt collectors have been appointed to collect the debt. But however, we have realized that the collection rate, however, is still very low. So how could we use this a performance, like to structure their contract in such a way that is performance based, so that we can really see value for money? So it's not a question, but just a thought to say if we could extend our research to see how we can regulate that area so that we can have value for money. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, sir, for your contribution. Much appreciated. Let me take Johannes.
Thanks very much, and thank you to the speakers for very insightful presentations. Mine is a bit of a comment and a question. So I think the way that performance-based contracts seem to be structured generally is that they are perhaps reactive. So they do allow us not to pay for services not delivered. But at the end of the day, if our objective is to get the services delivered, it doesn't really help us that, well, okay, we haven't paid for it, but actually the services have not been delivered. So in terms of our citizenry, the citizenry is still not catered for. Is there an opportunity to be more proactive in this type of contract? In other words, we focus a lot more on the stage payments to assure that the actual services or the services that have been contracted for can actually be realized and provided. In other words, we are working together with the contractor to make sure that they actually do achieve the results. Then, at the end of the day, we also then obviously, pay them on the basis of what has been achieved. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, sir. Vivek and Tembela.
Thanks, Peter, for your comments and feedback. I mean, we've not given actually any thought related to using this type of contracts for debt collection, and I think that this is one of the things that we would need to get our heads around. On Johannes, you touched on this, is that the focus of these contracts are long term. I mean, working on a project for a couple of months and then the contractor leaving, it doesn't happen in this sort of environment. There's a relation that gets built with the contractor, and granted, there will be situations where, like you're saying, services are not delivered, and this type of contracting needs to account for that and give the contractor some additional time where he can get his act together and deliver. I mean, this sort of thing is allowed for in the PPP space. Linda, I think please help over here. That the sort of allowances does exist in PPP contracting. Well, if you're around, you want to come in on this also, please?
Okay. You want Will to come in? Will is Will around?
You.
All right. Let me check who I can throw in under the bus on this one. Where is Tembis? Shamas, I see you are here.
Yes, I'm here, but I'm not under the bus for yet.
Okay, good. I think you can take this one. I want you to take this one because it will also assist us with regards to what the other examples in terms of the projects that we already have, maybe that are more on PPP, and then in response to this one.
Okay. Yeah, the issue is in terms of the performance-based is more of a project management related kind of a phenomenon. So if you want to do it in terms of collection, it may be a little bit of kind of not a kind of not exactly the match for that, because in terms of collection, there is no service that would be delivered by the collectors. When you're looking at the performance base, the collector must do the person that is contracted must do something. So it means that person must do the entire value chain to supply water. And then when water gets into a pipe, then you get that water. If the supplier does not do the entire value chain, and the value chain for collecting water from the dam, cleaning it, supplying it, it won't be easy to do the performance-based contract at the tail end of it just for collection only. Because if you withhold the money, whereas the municipality has already done the entire process, it's going to disadvantage them. But in the two contracts that we have in water, which is Mbombela and Ilembe District Municipality, the Triple P, the contracting parties, the contractors are doing the entire value chain. So it's easy for them to be able to collect as well, because they are responsible. If water is not getting into the tap, then it's them that would be held liable. But if it's the municipality that is doing the entire infrastructure and someone else is to collect, it won't be able to work as part of the performance-based contract.
Wonderful. Yes, Shamase, before you step down, can you also then give us some, I want you to also expand in terms of the behavior of the community or the receivers of the service in terms of the payment, comparing to when there was no private party until the private party started giving them the water, in terms of the payment for the service that they are getting. Okay. What has been the change in terms of
so
the
in
behavior?
in the two contracts that we have?
Yes.
All right. I'm not going to give you the exact values because, as you said, you threw me under the bus. I'm the visitor here. But there are two distinct changes. There are two distinct kind of value add in what we're saying. One is in terms of water loss. In both contracts that we have, both in Mbombela and in Ilembe District Municipality, as much as we have so much mushrooming of the informal settlement, their water loss has never gone beyond 75%. And if it does go to that area of 75%, they quickly rectify those kind of mistakes. Their average water loss, the water loss is around about 10%. So that's the 10%. So I might have put it wrongly. So their water loss has never gone beyond 25% in terms of losses. Sorry, I'm now putting it correctly. So if it is at that area of around 25%, they quickly look at the problem and they rectify it. Normally, their water loss average is around 15%, which is very good. And again, when it comes to the collection, it's also as good as that. And I think when it comes to collection, it is even much better than the water loss in terms of statistics. I think it's because they like money more than water loss. So in their statistics, they have never gone beyond 15% in terms of the non-payers. So they have got less than, their average is around about 90% and a little bit below 90, but they are collecting very well. The behavior of community towards those service provider is totally different to what we see in even in the big municipalities such as ours. I mean, Johannesburg, being serviced by rainwater, and in KZN as well. We still behaving like really a community that is served by government. But in those areas, there is quite a lot of change and a lot of differences when it comes to the behavior of the community towards those service providers. Thanks, Lindo.
Thank you very much, Shamasa, on that one. Yeah, because I wanted to highlight for you to highlight that similarity in terms of these types of contracts, that they also then bring another behavior towards the consumers of the services, because immediately you have that assurity that whatever you are paying for, you're going to receive. Then you change how you behave towards that service, which is also embedded in these types of contracts. Maybe just for me to come back, I don't see any other hand in this case. Vivek, can you check on the chat? There is a comment there or a question. Can you please then look at it and then respond it in line after my comments here? You can also incorporate some of my comments here. More specifically, my question will be in line with the rural municipalities, where I think the challenge there, it's one of revenue collection, or the ability for those municipalities to raise the required funding. What options do they have if they want to also implement such contracting systems? And also with regards to there's a, yeah, it's one that will be the one. And then the second one is the transition in governments. How does that affect these kinds of contract? Once you have this contract, or in planning to have this contract, so you are in progress to have this kind of a contract, does it affect the change in government or the change, like we're going to the to elections next year? What would be the dangers or the challenges in that respect? So you can, or let's also take our good doctor, who is one of our, I always see him here. So we are very happy to have you also today, Doc. You can come in.
Good afternoon, my chief, and good afternoon, all the participants. My question is in fact sparked by what you had said now. I'll try and be very, very short. My understanding is that whether it be water, electricity, health, or education, this country has got country policies, and those country policies are enshrined in the white papers on the subject at hand. For example, the white paper on the transformation of education, or the white paper on finance. Right now, when we have the white paper having been developed and adopted by the executive, that white paper is taken through the lawmaking process by the lawmakers at the level of parliament. And when they are through with that process, which is carried out through what we call the legal framework, and in other words, the bill is taken through a very in-depth people consultative process, and we end up with a law. Now, when we have the law, it is the responsibility of the bureaucrats, which means civil servants in various departments, and also the politicians, and even the judiciary, to see to it that the law is enforced. Now, if one is asking a question as to whether implementation is changed by the change of government, what we should understand is that a change of government does not change the policy and it does not change the law. We have very solid policy making processes and law making processes. And if any law that guides civil servants to implement is in existence, but a new government comes into being, the policy and the law stands. And if the people that come in are of the opinion that they do not agree with the policy and the law, they must go and repeat the policy making process and the law making process to ensure that policy and law are changed in a democratic way. Thank you very much.
Yeah. Thank you very much, sir. I'm tempted to respond on your comment, but I will leave it to Vivek on that one. Because once I say because, then I'll respond. Vivek, the first one is the one on the chat from Maobani Mtlari.
On the chat, Lindo, I was scribbling down some notes, and this is the way I understand it, is that it's the contractor that is responsible for fixing the leaks. And then there's DFI funding that would come in, and this funding is at a lower cost than normal market rates. And within the contract, there are targets that need to be achieved over time. And these targets relate to a reduction in losses, and this would translate into income for the municipality as more water is being billed, or less cost to the municipality. So the savings that would arise to the municipality. The other thing is that when the project was first started, there was a baseline that was established. And from this baseline, the savings are calculated by difference. So which is related to the payments to the contractor. And there's a portion that would accrue to the municipality also. And between the savings and the lower cost, that would be used to repay the debt.
Okay.
I think I would need you to come in on the question that the doctor asked, because I was scribbling down notes on this one.
Actually, it was in line with the legislative environment that when there are policies that are already passed, and then the change of government should not have any effect on the projects that needs to be done. And I agree 100% with that sentiment, but then the practice and the experience is totally different to that one. We can cite so many examples where projects were almost up to evaluation when they were stopped because there was a change in the leadership and they were no longer a priority, and that affected the delivery of such projects. And we've got experience in some programs that have also changed, and we cannot shy away from that one. It's always there. Yes, in an ideal world, you would want a situation where programs that have already been agreed and that are on the IDP must stay the same irrespective of the change in administrative or political level, because those are the municipalities' programs, not individuals' programs. But experience, it tells us differently in that case. All right. Can I then take any other questions of input? I don't see any hand. Okay. Tember, I would want you to come in on this one. When you were talking about the issue of handover that are weak, I would like you to elaborate on that one. Are they weak on performance-based contract or on other contracting systems that are implemented? Just want you to clarify on that one. And why are you indicating that in terms of handover, the handover process or systems are weak? Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. I think this is tied into contracting, whereby we kind of find it that it's not really emphasized in terms of handing over those type of projects, which will tide up the contractors in terms of if maybe you are handing over the project for in case, if you remember, we have the enabler, which we're saying it's a kind of contract duration, whereby we are really focusing to say, even if you hand over the project, you are still tied up for in case if there's any kind of challenges that we might face with the project. If it's a water project and then there's pipe burst along that we have already signed and already the contract is there, but you are still the contract is still binding you to still come back and fix up the project as it is a part of the PBC. So it's a kind of trying to tighten up the contract and making sure that the service providers they do the project or a service, but they also to keep them to bear in mind that anything that happens, we still have a contractual period whereby we want you to come back and fix this particular, even though you have done the project, but you are still tied up to come and fix if there might be any challenges within the project. So it's all about that specific task, and it's all about also to make sure that we keep the contractors informed about those particular contracts, because if you're not informing them and it's not being emphasized within the contract, it's something that at most the contractors can that they know about that and they can take advantage of that if it's not being emphasized into our contracts. So it's all about putting it there, and they must understand that as soon as we have any problem, they still have to come back and fix it up.
Wonderful, wonderful.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Bob. Maybe just to then summarize on the issues that you are raising, to say what we are actually indicating is the importance of contract management that we need to do from the government side, as well as ensuring that the maintenance cycle or the maintenance program that was agreed between the parties is actually delivered and maintained according to how then we have agreed in terms of the standards, to ensure that whatever lead time that we have agreed at the end when you hand over the asset, it is in a working condition that is required for us to enable to continue providing the service that we are providing, so that there's continuity in terms of service provision to our communities. Yes. So I don't see any other input, any comment or question. If not, let's thank our presenters for this insightful presentation and work that you have done. Thank you very much for that one, and also thank Nobuntu for organizing. I would like to return it back to you, Nobuntu, to then close for us. Thank you very much to everyone that has attended, and we really appreciate your attendance and also your engagement that you also give us. We really appreciate that one. Let's keep it going. We are coming back with another one, but Nobuntu will tell us about that one. Thank you very much, and have a lovely afternoon.
Thank you, Mr. Hlatjoyo, and thank you, Vivek and Tembela, for such an insightful presentation. Looking forward to see you again on the next webinar, which will be on the 24th. the invites will be going out, and I would like you to take a minute again to just rate how the session was. I know it was very engaging and very informative. Thank you, colleagues. Have a very great weekend further.
Thank you.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Jason.
Bye.
Bye.